Welcome to Absolutely PlayStation Esteemed Gamers Discussion Podcast, episode Quattro. I remembered.
Wow.
0.5? No.
I wasn't
this
even
isn't
sure.
0.5.
Pretty sure it's 4. Yeah.
It's 4 of the official. What I've been dubbing all the discussions in the news is point. So like 4.4, 4.
Oh, I see.
It's the in-between discussions. Anyway, guys, this is the show every week where we sit down and we talk to you about the games we've been playing, what we're excited about, maybe a little bit of the news, but generally this is the crew catching you up on what is going on. My name is Benny. That is Jeff the Frog. That is Houston the Rathalos. And that is Shank the Titan.
I'll take it.
You already used Jeff. You can't use Jeff again.
But on PSG, I haven't used Jeff.
Oh, okay.
It's an original joke.
I see. Fair enough.
I'm rehashing. I'm like SNL 10 years down the road. Same skits, redone.
You can catch the Jeff bit in its origin over on our other channel. Absolutely Marvel and DC.
All right, so, I'll kick off a quick discussion here. I've decided I'm not going to be platinuming Nier Replicant. So after getting through ending A and completing the game, I discovered that the follow-on endings are not handled as well as the Drakengard 4 or Auto Tomato are handling the alternate endings.
Auto Tomato.
You have to replay the entirety of the game from the halfway point to gain an additional minute to your ending. That's all it is. It just adds a minute to the ending. Like it expands upon the ending. Like you get to see what happened to this character. Okay, play it again. This character, play it again. This character, but it doesn't
play the
alter
whole
the
game
ending.
every time.
Halfway
to
point.
do
So
that?
it's like 4 to 5 hours,
Still.
depending on how heavy you're going in and all of it. Still not a
Yikes.
small task.
Oh.
Natalie and I beat it last night, got ending A, and we were looking at what the other endings are, and we kicked off the second playthrough, and it goes, because it said, play the second time to discover the backstory of Kaine. And I'm like, oh, cool, we'll discover what's going on. She's the primary female character that runs around in her underwear, okay?
As you do.
As you do.
Of course.
It
Does that
opened...
even qualify as underwear?
I don't even know, because, like, it's...
I had to put the A2 outfit on her because, like, it was uncomfortable watching cutscenes.
Oh, it gets even more uncomfortable if you know her actual story. If you want, I can tell you her actual story because they explain it to you in a 50-minute text dialogue box.
Oh, I had one of those when we went to the, not the Whispering Forest. It was some forest. But I had one of those, and I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of a little cool side tangent. They'll tell the story through dialogue. 15 fucking minutes later, same thing.
Yeah, well, that's just it. Like, it's a cool, like, choose your own adventure thing. You get stuck in the dream state, and they give it to you in a text dialogue box, and it's like a old school choose your own adventure, kind of like that classic stuff. Well, they do the Kaine story for 50 minutes this way with no choose your own adventure. And I'm reading this to Natalie because it's like 11, 12 at night, and she's like, I'm tired. I'm like, I'll read it to you. So I'm reading it like a bedtime story about this girl who's abused as a child and then like finds someone who cares about her and then goes through like a whole bunch of other things. But it's like a bedtime story to Natalie as it's just like, and then Kaine looked to her grandmother, frail and weakly. She was like,
Oh, boy.
But here's the thing. It's A2, right? I'm getting that right? Whatever. The A outfit is not like a conservative outfit. Like, it shows like a lot, and even that is a like heads and tails above whatever they decided to put on Kaine. Like,
the excuse behind her outfit makes a lot of sense, and I can tell it to you without spoiling the main game because it's not officially even in the game. But there is an excuse for it, and it makes far more sense than Quiet's excuse in Phantom Pain, where they're just like, she needs sunlight. It's
no,
not
that's how she breathes.
It's not a better excuse. So, but at least it makes more sense. So the character of Kaine in Nier, and this is not revealed in the game, I'm going to state this, it's left vague intentionally, especially for the time period that this came out. Okay? And if you don't want to know anything and you want to do your own research, because this is not in the game, okay? I'm just throwing that out there, then jump 5 minutes in the future of this podcast. Okay?
just mute the stream, let it play.
So Kaine is actually intersex. So what that basically boils down to is either both genitalia or neither genitalia. It falls into a category of that, and they never specified which one. The community has accepted her as being a hermaphrodite, which is both genitalia. So she was abused as a child for this, and the only indications we have of it actually being in-game is in the background story. The townsfolk are calling her a freak and that she's not a real girl. That is it. That is all that is in the game. The directors and the story producers have come out and explained it a little bit further. You got to think this game came out in 2010. To this day, I think we'd have a problem getting an intersex character into a game without it being all... I mean, just look what happened with Last of Us 2 with the transgender characters. You know what I mean? Like, it just got all kinds of flack. So, the point of the outfit is because she was never treated as a woman or a girl in her lifetime, she likes to wear an outfit that accentuates the feminine qualities of her. That's the point of the lingerie and the underwear and all of that stuff. While the excuse makes far more sense than quiet needing sunlight, it's not the greatest of answers to that problem.
Japan.
My concern is whose decision was it to make this excuse? A man's? Probably.
Okay, thank you. It's not me saying it, because that's all I'm thinking is that is a man's excuse for why a woman would wear that.
That's I mean, comic books have that all the time where they're like, oh, Power Girl has a boob window because it makes her feel powerful. It's like, all right, but also the artist who drew Power Girl for the first 10 years of her history literally made her boobs bigger each issue until his editor noticed.
Yeah, that was it. That's the actual story behind Power Girl's boob window. It's interesting the way that they chose to do this with the Kaine character, just in general, because it is just a very anime thing to have them half naked.
Yeah.
It's just very... That's why even up until I knew the actual story behind why she supposedly wears it, it was just kind of like, whatever. It's a Japanese game.
And that's you can just be gratuitous, and that's fine. It's like when you get into the levels of like Quiet is a good example, because that was the character who she just doesn't fit into the world. And if Kojima just came out and was like, I don't know, she's hot, I would have been like, all right, fair enough. but he was like, oh, she breathes through her skin, so she can't wear clothes. I'm like, okay, listen, just we all know what you're doing.
That. Nobody believes that.
All right, so I'm going to stop wearing clothes, and when a police officer stops me, I'm going to use that excuse and see what happens.
I have a condition. I breathe through my skin.
They actually play up the Kaine angle, though, in the actual game itself. Various characters comment on the fact she's always wearing lingerie. Various characters call her, one of the main primary characters calls her a hussy all the time. He's just an evil character, but that's a good guy. It's a long story, but it's more of an endearment thing than it is actually making fun of her. But they all point out that she is very feminine and wearing lingerie, and that's apparently the purpose of it, is because she wanted that. She wanted that attention because as a kid she was never treated as a girl. It makes sense, but it's all not in the game. It's in extra material and plays and director interviews, you know. So as far as we in the gamer know, she had a weird childhood and wears lingerie. That's all we know in the game.
And it's possible there's a creative behind the Nier that has similar experiences and actually is a voice of, authority on something like that. I don't know that. I've never played Nier and I don't know the creatives behind it, but I don't know. It seems like if that were the point, it would be more in the game, and it seems like it's not. So
well, and that's where I get a little off on it, the whole thing, because then you also get into the argument of no, she is intersex, and then but in the game she's just called a freak. We have nothing else behind that, and it's not like she comes out of nowhere. It's like, by the way, Nier, let me explain to you what you know what I mean. It's
like didn't J.K. Rowling after a year or two ago just was suddenly like, yes, Hermione is black. She was black the whole time, and it's like, what? You based that character off of yourself. You can't just go back and change that and say that something is different and that's not illustrated in the text ever.
Wait,
I think she more said Hermione was never determined her skin color, because in the play, a black actress was cast
as different. But that was a choice. That wasn't...
Yeah.
No, I have a better
but-
example because they used Harry Potter as an example. I was doing a little bit of research because I've always known the story behind Kaine, but replaying the game, it wasn't brought up, and I'm like, wait, where was that? Like, where do I know this story of Kaine? And so I googled it, and my favorite answer was, Kaine is as intersex / hermaphrodite as much as Dumbledore is gay. It was talked about afterwards.
Which, like, I will sort of defend. Like, that's the one rolling, like, after the fact thing that I will sort of defend, because there is some stuff that hints towards Dumbledore being gay, but, like, most of the other shit that she just added on, nothing. There's, like, nothing for it.
Okay, but the thing is, with Dumbledore, him being gay or not doesn't affect
It doesn't
his
matter.
motivations and his character, like what he
Yeah.
did throughout the story. Changing this after the game comes out to explain a decision that clearly was made for a different reason. I don't know. I don't see it as equivalent at all.
Well, the problem with this is no one can seem to nail down where it was actually revealed. Because if it was in because there's a Nier stage play. If it was in the Nier stage play, then it's canon. You know, if it was in one of the Nier extra books, then it's canon. But everyone's like, the directors and everyone have said this.
Hold up,
But
there's a stage play?
Yeah, there's stage plays. Yoko Taro has made stage plays for each of the Niers. So like there are extra media that would elaborate on this type of a topic. What makes it weird, and this is actually a good thing talk in general for gaming, like how far does extra media go? But the problem with this one is it gets even more muddier because they made a lot of subtle changes from the Japanese version to the American version originally. So we had Just Alt Replica, I already told you that story. So they already changed things, including, if you look on the internet, people consider the Kaine that was in America original, the only reason that she was considered transgender is because she had a male spirit in her. Which, that's early reveal. That's not even like a big spoiler. That's the whole shade thing. But either way, but it's male. That's what it is. And so that was where that came from. And it's like, wait, no, hold on. But he said, you know what I mean?
The whole mess of like, you know, probably just like a thought that some game dev had about the character and just put it out there, and then people took it in, which like
It's exactly what it is. I mean, it's not canon.
sure. And if that,
I
you know what, if
can't
that means
find where it
something to
originated.
you-
I can't
Yeah.
find where it originated.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it could officially be canon. It could just be something mentioned. Could be just the community back in 2010 ran with it. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like,
And yeah, it is like if somebody's like a big fan of that treatment of the character, that's fine. Like especially if that's important to you. You know, I would say you should fight for better representation.
Well, yeah, that's my
that,
argument.
but-
Is that it was the representation argument of. I feel like we're so focused on discussing what she's wearing and why she's wearing it, and she's only wearing it because she's intersex, instead of just saying like, no, she's intersex and she's also like her character isn't just driven by that. You know what I mean? Like it distracts away from.
I think that's
the
why
rest of her
that
story.
actually is one of the reasons I like the fact that it is like this extra media kind of discovery, because as far as the game's concerned, there's more to her. We don't know what it is, but it's
Right.
not a character-defining trait.
Oh,
That's
good
what it
point.
boils
You are
down
saying
to.
this
Yeah.
isn't in
Yeah.
the game, so
It's
I
not in the
didn't
game,
really-
so that makes it not character defining. What is character defining is her history with her grandmother, her desire to kill the Shades. That is her character defining trait, you know? And they never
Yeah.
really touched on it other than she likes the treatment she gets from being dressed up very feminine. So,
We'll just call that what I did this week, because really the only things I did this week was I played Nier Replicant a lot, and I played a little bit of Destiny, did the raids, and I'm trying
you had
to
a
think.
busy work week.
Did we do anything else? I feel like we did something else.
No, because we did
didn't
Civ last week. It wasn't this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna ask.
we
if y'all played any
raided-
more Civ.
We have been in
got-
the mornings, but Shank works too much.
Yeah, I did get my Conqueror title this week, and then really it's just been playing a ton of Nier, and I'm really not even that far through the game yet. I get really immersed when I'm playing single player games, and like I like doing every little thing. So you're not platinuming it, but I probably will end up platinuming it just because.
The reason I'm not going to is you have to replay the game 4 times, right? And a lot of the the side quests, a lot of the grind is old school 2010 grind. Like one trophy is to catch every fish. Another trophy is to grow every plant, and including one plant that takes 8 actual days to grow. Like real life days.
It's like a chow garden.
You don't have to be logged
Sonic
into
Adventure.
the game for that, do you?
What's that?
You don't have to be logged into the game for that, do you? You just
No,
have to
no. I
plan
think you have to
it.
check on it. Like I was reading it, like you have to check in on it every day or something like that to keep it growing properly. And I guess it takes like 16 days, but there's a way to skip it to 8 days. I'm like, oh my god. And then you got to run like not every side quest, but you have to farm the materials to upgrade 33 weapons. And I'm just
God.
like, I'm enjoying the game. I had a blast at the game. I enjoyed the plots of the game. I think there's other things I'd rather platinum than this. Like that's where I'm looking. Like I'd rather finish my 7 platinum Final Fantasy 7 remake than do this and then start to hate Nier. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to hate it. I don't want to. Oh my god, I'm so irritated with this stupid thing.
Well, maybe just break it up. Maybe come back and play Story B 3 months from now.
Yeah.
When
I might come
when you
back
had it.
like, if I'm bored. Yeah.
But yeah, I just platinumed. See, what I like about at least with Nier Tomato, I was able to buy the platinum after.
Good.
You can go to a vendor and you can buy the ones you don't want to do. So like, if I got bored looking for a
interesting.
specific type of shield enemy, I don't know what chapter it was supposed to be in. I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna buy the thing for finding the trophy for finding every enemy. I'll just buy that one. I don't know that it's going to be that easy in this one, but I also
There's no buy
I like
shop.
I like the old JRPG. You have to literally do everything to get the platinum in the game. I'm a completionist like that. You know, I have issues with that kind of stuff, and
Those are the trophies I enjoy. I enjoy the trophies that require me to do everything, because if I'm enjoying the game, it gives me that extra reason. Like, that's why I started with the Assassin's Creed before this challenge. I did Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla because I enjoyed them. You know what I mean? Normally the last 10 hours, I'm like, oh my god, especially on those ones because they're so long. But like I've done quite a few platinum trophies just because I was enjoying the game and I just wanted to finish it. I got the Control platinum just because, hey, I'm digging this. I'm going to finish it. So those are the trophies I enjoy. I'm not a fan of trophies where it's like, kill 20 enemies in 0.5 seconds while running on super hard, don't take damage, and you have to be online with other players.
Yeah, like that's like I enjoy doing achievements and trophies and stuff if they are like a complementary experience to what I'm already doing, or if they just like in an unfocused game like a live service game, if they point me in a direction, like that's something that I could be like, okay, well, I haven't known what to do in this game for a while, but now here's an event that has like a list of achievements that I can focus on, and I don't really care about them, but it at least gives me a reason to play this game for a while.
well, I mean, God of War did the same thing. You had to do everything in the game in order to platinum it.
I think most of the Ubisoft titles and Sony's like exclusives are very good about that, where it's just like, just do everything. But like, if you try to do it like any fighting game, win 10,000 ranked matches online. Who's doing that? Like,
That's too many.
Not even play. When? I'm like, nope, I'm good. Have a nice day.
That's
so
fair.
I'm going to jump our topic over to Huey because I think he's playing the most current game. Huey, how is Pokemon Snap?
Yeah, I
It's
wanna know.
Pokemon Snap. I mean, if you
Awesome.
played the N64 game, you've played Pokemon Snap.
That's good to hear.
It's a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong, but I'm having a hard time picking it up and actually sitting there and playing it right now because it doesn't feel new. It's a nostalgia trip, but it's not one that I need to. I need to finish this now. What's the next Pokemon I can take a picture of doing a weird backflip or something?
That was the issue I had with it back in the day. Like, I liked it, and I think it probably kicked off my love for cameras, but at the same time, it's an on-the-rail shooter.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, 100%. It's like,
It's a
all
very
right,
slow one.
it is very slow. At the beginning, I'm having a hard time getting through the beginning of it just because it's like, all right, here's how you take a picture. All right, here's, look at, you can
Pokemon
go
stuff.
day or night. Okay, here's the apples you can throw at them to make them do weird stuff. Okay, here's Illuminate Pokemon, the new special Pokemon to take pictures of. Okay, now we get to go to the next zone, but first I need you to take 3 pictures of this thing you've already taken pictures of 1,000,000 times.
I've heard that the biggest complaints right now are that the $60 price tag is just not worth it. I've heard that from multiple sources.
So this is for the Switch, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why didn't Niantic just make Pokemon Snap and just make it a?
You think Nintendo would let them?
They're Niantic
busy.
is lucky Pokemon Go recovered. That game was doing so bad. Like one month in, I was like, "This is the greatest game ever." I was playing it, and then 1 month in, no one could log in.
Right, but the point is that people play. I mean, you played it up until like what, a year ago, or do you still play it?
They still play it on and off.
I have officially stopped playing it because they went a very pay to win methods, and I'm like, I'll get sucked in. Like
Right,
it's not, I know I will get sucked in.
Right, but I mean that's the point. Is that like it was like the hot thing? What, in 2016? Jesus, when did that come out? But
While ago,
like
man.
Pokemon Snap seems almost perfect for AR, right?
Yes,
yeah.
but the
Go
whole
out
point of it is
into
you're going
the world
the whole
and take pictures of Pokemon.
That's different, though. The point of Pokemon Snap is to go into the world of the Pokemon, not go find a Pokemon on your street with construction nearby. Like
That would be a different, like, and I think that was a thing that you could do in certain
You can do
things.
it in Pokemon
Yeah.
Go.
Also, now I'm considering the privacy concerns of a bunch of people taking photos of real life locations.
Yes.
I've changed my mind. Go ahead.
I
Fury.
mean, the thing is, they can already do it.
I mean, I just speaking of that, I was watching an episode of Catfish with Natalie. Yes, we've been binge watching trash reality TV. But we were watching an episode of Catfish.
No problems
and,
here.
And there was a catfish that they found, and they tracked her through her Facebook, and they found her house, and they tracked the exact location of the house, and the catfish wouldn't answer the phone, so the whole camera crew loaded up, went to her house.
Yeah.
And literally the first thing she
Spoilers,
goes,
Benny.
yeah?
It's kind of scripted.
Oh,
I don't
sure. I don't think. Look,
I think to an
will-
extent, but she came out, she's like, how did you find me? And the guy's just like, wasn't hard. So tell us what's going on.
in defense of the show, I'm sure it's scripted, and she probably knew they were confronting her ahead of time. But you can very easily.
Oh yeah, you can
find
easily
people's
do that.
information.
I'm just saying, the whole camera crew did not just show up randomly.
Yeah,
is
they
what
didn't
I'm
just
trying to
decide
say.
No, they
the host
decided.
wasn't
They're like, we're
we
going to
gotta
confront
go.
her at her house. We're going to confront her there. This is one of the first couple of seasons where it seemed actually legit. Because like we ran out of the new seasons, and those totally feel staged. Like it's the biggest stagings ever in the newest episodes.
I feel like the movie is genuine, and then everything after it was like, okay, how do we make it juicy? How do we get this going?
I think the first couple of seasons, but the problem I think they ran into is everyone started to catfishing is becoming less and less of a thing and more obvious. So, like, if you watch the more recent seasons, they're like, I made a show called Catfish, and I flipped it on its head. All of their friends are now contacting me to come over here and do that. And I'm just like, everything about what you just said sounds staged. And, like, every single time, it's like, the catfish is actually the friend from their childhood that's been reaching out forever and lives down the road.
He's been here the whole time. He's actually on my camera crew.
Good news though, new season coming out soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Bring it back to Pokemon Snap. Huey,
Yes.
is there, like, I don't know how much you've played, but in the original Pokemon Snap, one of my favorite things was there was a lot of, like, secrets that you could find.
Oh yeah, they're still there.
Okay, good. That's
You
like,
actually
'cause
have to do that for some of those. There's secret paths you need to find and stuff like that.
Good.
But they also added a new quest system that helps find those secret paths. So it makes
don't
it a
like that
little
as
bit
much.
easier.
Yeah. I loved how cryptic they were in the original one,
Yeah.
where you had to take a picture of, like, the rock formation that
Uh-huh.
kind of looked like Kingler.
Oh, it
and then
turns
it
out
would
it was
unlock a new
actually
thing.
Kingler.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
But yeah, no,
cool
there
stuff.
are still secrets and stuff to find. Still different ways to make certain Pokemon appear, just like the original one. You have to go through multiple times to see everything. I don't remember if this was in the first one or not, but there's a star rating system now, so you can have a picture of a
that
1,
was in the
2,
original.
3, and 4 stars saved in your Pokedex. So you're
if I don't
trying to get a high rank 1-star picture, a high rank 2-star, high rank 3-star, and a high rank 4-star picture.
Right. Cool. Yeah, I am the only reason that I'm not like jumping into that game is, Benny, like you mentioned, that price tag is just.
I mean, the only
That's rough.
problem, it's a Pokemon
that
game. That
doesn't
price
sound
tag
like a
ain't
$60
gonna
I
drop
know.
anytime soon.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, I'd love to, even $40 I'd be
Yeah.
more okay with, but it's never getting there. It's a
No.
Nintendo game.
It's
Well,
not
that-
going
that's,
to.
That's the issue I have with a lot of the Nintendo games more recently. A lot of them are just basically like, oh, it's a Nintendo game, right? So it's kind of a mini game, and
Right.
we're going to charge you full price. Like I just played the Super Mario 3D World all the way through, and it was a remake, and they threw on what was just a Mario mini game. It's that open world one where you fight Bowser as a kaiju.
Bowser's Fury.
Bowser's Fury, and it's not a terrible game, but part of me feels like they intended initially for that to be a standalone $60 game, and they just got to a point where they're like, that's not going to sell. Tack on a remake.
Take out a remake we don't really have to work on.
Yeah, exactly. Like I feel like that's what happened with that one, to keep it at the $60 price tag. I think that was 60. It may have been 40, but
No, it
probably
was 60.
It was probably 60.
It's so weird because like they release pretty much everything at 60 without fail, but then they put out Link's Awakening, the remake of Link's Awakening, for $40 at launch, and like
Yeah.
that was great. Like, do more of that.
I
But
want
it's
more.
still, like-
I want more of those games remade in that art style that everyone hated.
I love that art style.
I loved
hate
it too. It got so much flack though. Like, why would you do this? Just give us back the original one.
Because they didn't want to do the original one. There's already a remake of the original one.
How much do you think because Sword and Shield were $60? Do you think Diamond and Pearl remake are gonna be?
Oh, yeah.
$60.
Pokemon's on the name. It's going to be $60.
Oh yeah,
That's
Pokemon's
the
still
worst. Those are like $35 at launch on the DS.
Well, yeah, but now they're on the Switch, so they're 60.
Yeah.
It's the same game.
No. Brilliance in front of the name now, Dylan. That's a whole
Link's
extra
look.
$30.
they've set a precedent with Link's Awakening. They could say like, oh, remakes of older handheld games, those are cheaper.
It could turn to a $40 game, but don't hold your breath.
I
Don't
love
hold
that
your
you're
breath.
arguing they've set precedent for them to sell it cheaper, so they
Don't hold
can
your
not
breath.
make as
There-
much money.
I hope.
Pokemon Let's Go, which was technically a remake with new mechanics of Yellow, was $60.
Was that 60? Oh, woof. Come
When
on,
they-
guys.
When the original guy passed away, you could tell that he was kind of holding a few things. Iwata. When he did pass away, you could tell that he was kind of holding a few things back, like their online services and their app games. He was trying to keep Nintendo more classic and true to the name. And when he passed, it was like a few things changed. I was like, oh, some of this is for the better. And then some of it, you're like, oh no, they're catching up to expensive games too. No, Iwata. I like some of the stuff you're doing, buddy.
Well, also, like, to be fair, around that time, Nintendo was kind of going through a big shift because I think like a year or two before he passed away, like Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey, all of that, like the Switch, that was when they brought in all the new like young developers who like we're now finally seeing like the Splatoons, all of the like new IP coming out of that. And I think that's where a lot of the like new Nintendo ideas have come from, but they really don't want to budge on price still.
Nope.
Nope.
Well, I mean,
only way to
app
change
games.
that is to
I remember
not
there's
buy
a
the
point.
game.
I don't remember how true it is or not, but they were like, "We're never doing app games," and now we
Yeah.
have an app game for every Nintendo title,
Yep.
basically.
I
We
remember
don't
that.
have a Zelda one yet.
It's just going to be a Zelda
I guess
hero
we don't,
recruiter that auto battles for you.
Okay, and I don't see a problem.
It's like, yes,
You just described my game.
the dream.
I would like to recruit every form of Link ever.
Very fair.
Here's my credit card.
I was going to say, I can see him showing up to work and just like, all right, I'm $300 in, but I still don't have Skyward Sword Link. I don't even like that one, but I need him on my team.
I like Skyward Sword.
I, as a child, collected like basically every Link, like promotional art PNG. I will give you that folder for like $400 if you want it, and I'll just save you the trouble.
No. See, they're not gonna do anything though. Where in the game,
I
they'll
can
at least
animate them
like
for you.
they'll like do some weird movements and hiya.
I'll puppet tool them, and I'll get some sound effects.
It's not the
They'll look
same.
great.
It's not the same.
Fair enough. I'll develop a whole app.
Have you played anything other than Pokemon Snap this week, Huey? I know you keep
yes.
meaning to start Nier.
I do. I keep starting it and then turning it off immediately because I don't feel like playing it. I started Genshin on the PS5. Really nothing to talk about. It's Genshin.
Isn't it like basically if you know Genshin, you know Genshin?
Yep. It's the same thing. They added a new patch, but I'm not far enough in the game to even talk about that. Then the other thing is Summoner's War came out with a new game, Lost Centurion. It's fantastic, but it's 100% pay to win. Benny, you've played Clash of Clans.
Yep.
It plays like that, where you pick your deck, but unlike Clash of Clans, your characters are fighting for you versus another team of characters. But the only way to level up these characters is to get more shards of these characters by pulling them.
Gotcha. So it's like every other app game.
It's like every other app game, but now it's 100%, well, 90% PvP focus, so it's pay to win.
Yeah, the problem with app games is they're still in that weird area. You have completely pay-to-win games made by companies that are just trying to get a cash grab, but you also have games like Fallout Shelter where they're just entirely a full-blown game.
Yep.
The new Nier looks like a weird mix between the two of them. App games need 3 or 4 more years to just be like, oh, I bought it on my app, on my tablet. It's great. You know, like...
That reminds me of, speaking of, like, pay-to-win stuff and looping back, Benny, to you talking about the Nier, like, end credits things. Y'all remember when Shadow of War came out and you had to basically pay like $200 to get like a 5-minute cutscene after you beat the game?
I don't remember
Did anyone
that.
else play
Oh,
that?
yeah, because they added loot boxes to it, and you had to get a specific thing to make it happen.
You basically, you would beat the game, and it got to this section where it was just like, the never-ending war starts now, and it's like the last section of the game before you get the true ending, which is just literally like a 2-minute cutscene. But you either have to play the game for like 30 more hours, or you can pay to speed up the process. It just becomes an app game suddenly.
I did remember that. Yeah, I did the 30 more hours.
Yeah, I just stopped playing and looked up the cutscene on YouTube. I was like, what am I going to get at the end of this 30-hour rainbow or this hundreds of dollar rainbow?
The best one ever was not... I've mentioned this game before. Asura's Wrath is this amazing Capcom game that came out forever ago, and it ends with everyone dying. Or you spend $4.99 and you get the extra final level that he saves the day. Like, I'm not even joking. It's the actual ending to the game if you pay $4.99. And it got so much crap for obvious reasons. They literally took out the last level of the game. The game ends with like Asura getting his butt kicked. He's thrown off the space station. He's being plummeted to Earth, and it's like, and he died. And you're like, wait, what? It's like,
wait, huh?
But the DLC is $4.99. You're like, wait, DLC? What is the DLC? So you download the DLC, and it's like, and he gets up, and here's a level, and a real ending.
Wow. That's Jason Todd levels of bad.
And the game was amazing on top of that. Like, it was amazing, too.
I'd just rather buy the horse armor in Oblivion.
No, it wasn't an app game. It was a 360 game. They literally
Jesus.
Imagine God of War. You get to the end of God of War, and in the final fight, Kratos falls, and the boy is knocked out, and they're like,
Pause it.
and that was where they died. But for $4.99, they'll come back.
If you want a God of War 2,
I just can't play games like
sure
that.
you buy the expansion.
But the thing is, like, I had Asura's Wrath while I was deployed, so like I couldn't even get that ending. Because I couldn't download it while overseas. So I got home, and one of the first things I did was like go online, and it had one DLC, and it was $4.99, and I downloaded it, and I'm like, oh, my game ended.
Wow, finally. That sucks. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could argue that, you know, if you're buying episodes of a TV show and there's a cliffhanger in the previous one, you could say it's like that. Maybe that if I was like their marketing guy, that's how I'd spin it.
Our chat is even bringing up another one, Javik in Mass Effect 3. When Mass Effect 3 came out, there was an entire additional crew member and storyline you could do if you paid $4.99 or pre-ordered.
Dang.
Guess what,
That's
guys?
rough.
I didn't do either. I didn't do it.
I didn't even play that game, so.
Yeah, I beat it.
I remember the other week we were talking about video games trying to like transform into art the same way movies and TV can be considered art forms. It's bullcrap like this that is just standing in the way.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's
I
going to
agree with
consider
you.
something art when
Every art form has this
this
stuff.
The only difference
but this
with that,
egregious.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, do you remember the movie Clue back in the day, the 80s? I don't know if you've seen it.
No, I haven't.
Not in the theater. I remember seeing it after. So the movie Clue, when it came out, and I think only a couple movies have ever done this. Every version, there was 3 versions of the movie, and you didn't know which one you were getting when you went to go see it.
Yeah.
They ended differently. Like who had done it was different depending on which version you ended up going to see.
I mean, that's
kinda awesome,
See,
though.
but no, I actually think that is artistic. That is like you don't know who did it.
That's,
Like it's different.
like
That's like you buy a game on PlayStation Store and you don't know what ending you're gonna get.
Yeah. But it was, I mean, it's still kind of a cash grabby thing because you couldn't figure it out. It was like Houston's gotcha games combined with buying the ending. You know, which one are we in today, Huey? Oh, it's that one.
Yeah,
It was-
my gotcha games are a little different. It's totally not worth the money I put into them, and I know that. But I do it anyway because never mind.
So, but yeah, I mean, every art form goes through that kind of a thing. I mean, art's been around forever, so I'm sure they had a period, you know, back in Victorian era. They're like, oh, I'll give you the Mona Lisa, but she'll smile for $4.99.
But I agree with but then you got to think with the big AAA titles or AAA companies, it's harder to justify it being an art form. When then you look at indie games, and some of those are legit art forms.
Yeah.
And I think
But
it's
then-
like, you know, the discussion of art always kind of boils down to like, does something like, is it considered this weird, like, high art that we've agreed on when it's like so nebulous and nothing because art is so subjective? Like, I think art is just, to me, like, we want to have a discussion about art. Art to me is just like, it's a person's ability to take their experiences and their emotion and put it into something and let someone else feel that. And you can do that in any form possible.
I felt
And-
rage at having no ending to Asura's Wrath.
Yeah, and maybe that was intentional or not, but like that's
was
a
not
piece of art.
intentional. That was we want $5 more for our game.
So yeah, it's like that's what it means to me. Like I don't really like you could have Transformers looking level like schlock, but if there's something there, like I don't know, there's art in the Transformers movies. Sure.
I like
Who
explosions.
cares? Yeah. Like somebody worked on those models for hours and they're probably very proud of that. And that's, you know, to say like that's not art.
Yeah, and then somebody subverted like all the work they did by taking the ending, cutting it off, and selling it to $4.99.
Oh yeah.
I agree with
100%.
with you with this on
The
on
problem
that check.
with the industry in general, the way we're at, is you have a clashing of ideas. You get the idea of it being art, you get the idea of wanting a ton of money, and then you have the idea of and then you have the idea that games are just too cheap right now, so we need to figure out another way to make money. You know, because no one's gonna buy $200
Right.
games. Like so they gotta find a secondary way to get income in there, and loot boxes, gotcha games, tacked on endings, DLCs. No company has figured out a good way to do it, like straight up good way to do it. There are better ways to do it, but no one's figured out a good way. Otherwise, that would become the industry standard. I mean, we're in an industry where they're
Cosmetics.
trying to sell for $100. Here's the ability to play Darth Vader at Battlefront, or you can spend 48 hours. Or
Right, and
we're
they
gonna
got grilled for that.
No,
They
well,
should've
yeah,
they got
they
absolutely
did.
torn apart.
But what I'm saying is because there's no like industry standard of what is the acceptable way to make additional money, EA tries these things. You know what I mean? And then they, no, you're right, $100, bit much. Would you pay $80 for Darth Vader? You know what I mean? Like
That's the weird thing about this industry is it's still the most like profitable industry out of and we're in that stage where we're like gaming is such a huge industry, but games just increasingly get more expensive to make but the price of games hasn't really gone up until this generation, and it only went up by $10.
Yeah.
We're in this weird place where, like Benny said, people are trying to figure out what the best and most fair way to get more money past the initial in the door sale is, and I think there's going to be a lot of like Asura's Wrath type things before we find the
or
thing
it's
that
going to be the
everyone agrees on.
Cyberpunks. Like if you look at what happened with Cyberpunk, reports are back now. Even with refunds, they're rolling in dough. That game is unplayable at launch on a disc. And yes, we have 1,000-word arguments. You're going to download it or whatever. I've been keeping up on it because I want to know when I can play it. It apparently is still not in a playable state or what was promised.
Okay.
We're in April.
So
May now.
2 points. 2 points. First, Benny's. So when we're talking about Cyberpunk, why are they rolling in dough? Because CD Projekt Red made The Witcher 3 a fantastic game. Then they came out with 2 separate DLCs, both of which, okay, Hearts of Stone couldn't be its own DLC or its own game. Blood and Wine could be its own separate game. That's how good that DLC was. They came out, they put out a solid project, everybody agreed it was good. They poured their heart and soul into it. So then, when they make their next game, everybody says, yes, I'm on board. I'm buying that game now.
Right.
That is how they made their money. They didn't make their money. I mean, yeah, maybe some of it's like promotion, but did they really have to promote that much?
A lot of it was promotion.
They did a shit. They hired, and you can look at the stuff behind it. People didn't even want him there. They hired Keanu Reeves. Like, you can't tell me the marketing budget wasn't there to promote CD Projekt Red's new thing.
You're telling me Keanu Reeves is what sold CD Projekt Red?
No, but the marketing
I don't
sold
think
Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I don't think
It's
it's
what
any
sold
one
Cyberpunk.
thing. I think it's you know, obviously the CD Projekt Red's lineage had something to do with it, but
Yeah.
also they marketed the hell out of that game.
They marketed the game
Like, it
for
was
3
both
years.
things. Yeah.
Apparently,
It's the same
Johnny
shit with, like,
Silverhand wasn't even going to be important in the original, and now it's Keanu Reeves, so he's a core plot.
They marketed it for 3 years, or it got delayed for 2, so they just kept on.
They still
marketing.
kept dumping money into the marketing. And the point I'm making is, though, we're in a day and age where people can come out with a broken ass game, bank a ton of money, and be like, we got it. We'll fix it down the road. We'll fix it down the road. I like Outriders. We're ambassadors for Outriders, but at the same time, Outriders still has the inventory glitch. I will not play Outriders until you can tell me 100% they're not going to delete my inventory. Like, and now that game has been out for a month and a half. Because it's still there. It's still there.
It took I think 3 months for Avengers to fully iron out the campaign breaking bugs that just wouldn't let people progress through the story.
Yeah,
So-
we could not definitively sit down and just play Avengers until like November, December without somebody in our group disconnecting.
yeah.
Like,
I mean, I never made it through the story on PC.
but that's
I
what I'm
never made
saying.
it through the story,
We're in
period.
a day and age where people like CD Projekt Red are using their pedigree to get you to buy their game that 5 months after launch shake isn't playable.
Right, which is bull. That's not what I'm talking about. My point was, you're asking how do you recoup your money? My point is, if you make a solid game, people will buy your next game.
Well, you're
Yeah.
right, but I think we're now in a day and age.
That is my point. Not that CD Projekt Red shouldn't have released a broken game, or that Outriders shouldn't have released a broken game. That is not my point at all. My point is that if you put out quality products, people will return to see what you put out. If you put out broken stuff, people aren't going to come back, or at least they're going to be hesitant to make the purchase. The second point I wanted to make was, Dylan said you were talking about how they haven't figured out how to make money, and I think they really have. It's cosmetics. Things like nameplates, like costumes, emotes, the kind of stuff that doesn't affect the game but allows you to individualize your experience. You can look really cool.
I think we've reached the point where it is agreed that cosmetics are the way to go. But because DLC was the way to go for a while, but then that also just proved to be not cost effective. So
because they tried to
cosmetics
battle
are-
pass it. You were pre-ordering DLCs that may or may not have been good. That was the problem with that.
And I think now, cosmetics are kind of the agreed upon way, but the specificity under that is the thing that's still like how much is too much to spend on something? How frequently do these things need to be released? How advanced or complicated does a cosmetic need to be? And that's something we've talked about a lot on this podcast. Like,
Yeah.
is $14 for one skin that's basically just a recolor? Is that okay? Are we okay with that?
But is
right,
$14 okay for a awesome new skin that makes you look like a god come down to earth? Like, I think it's just a supply and demand thing, which I'm much better, like, that feels much better, me deciding whether or not the work you put into your skin is worth it. It's much better than a loot box. I hated loot boxes.
Our chat brings up another great example of trust broken. Fallout 76. Your exact example. Oh, Bethesda. Let's all go do Fallout. Garbage. I think, from what I hear, it's really good now, but that's like almost a year too.
To be fair, Bethesda has kind of had a long history of releasing broken games at launch. Fallout 76 was just a really egregious example of that.
But it just works. I think the problem, because I've seen this with you in quite a bit, Shank. If you like a game or a company, you're willing to continually forgive over and over and over. If Destiny is an example, because like we were talking earlier, and you and I, it was a joke between us, and so I'm not going to harp on that. But I made the comment to you, like, and I even said it. I was like, I wish, because Destiny's trying to charge for transmog, I wish I could like boycott. And like it would actually matter. They would notice like there was an actual boycott of playing Destiny because of the current transmog charging. But I also said, but I also feel like if I did that, I would then jump on at the end of the season and be like, I gotta play catch up. I can't miss out on Destiny. You know what I mean? And your response to that was, because you said, oh, I kind of see what you mean, but I'm still going to come back for story, which that's fine. That's 5 hours. And raiding, which is playing the entire season until you're ready to raid. And then I jokingly was like, so basically, they could do the worst thing ever and you will always return. And you went, yeah, probably. And I think
that's the thing. That's because their gunplay, their story, and their lore are on point. So I keep on coming back because I enjoy the product they put out, regardless of how dumb they are with their store. You know what I won't do? I won't participate in their store interactions. Like I am boycotting. I am boycotting their transmog by not using the crappy system they put in. I mean, it doesn't mean that I don't enjoy the game.
I'm gonna make a 15-second clip the moment I see you buy one and go, well, I just had to do this outfit. I just needed I needed my trials outfit, but after that I'm boycotting. Yeah? After that I'm boycotting.
I'll tell you what. I'll save you the hassle. I'll just clip it myself. Because
I'm gonna do the same thing you are. I will work toward. I'll see how bad the grind is. I'll work towards the free ones. But if I buy one, you got to call me out. If I go into that store and I buy a $15 transmog.
What is calling you out going to do?
All I'm going to say right now, Benny, is in the next month, you will have bought in all of the transmog spots for Destiny 2. And don't even try to tell me you won't, because I know you.
No. We'll
just make a 6-hour video. We'll just make a 6-hour video going over the pros and cons of each outfit. And then just write them all off.
There you go.
So I don't know. The industry's getting into a weird spot, and just being gamers who have been around since the early Nintendo days. I know Shank and I have been. Huey, you too, and Dylan, you've been around since what, like N64, mid '90s, early '90s.
My first console was an N64. Yeah.
Yeah. See, why did I know it would be N64 with you? I don't.
My
know
first
why.
game was Pokemon Stadium.
I thought you were gonna say Snap.
That's a good game.
No, it is a good game.
So, but anyway. Yeah, chats are going, Benny, remember all these outfits in Avengers? That's different. They give me the currency. I've said that.
Yeah, but they didn't give me the currency for Ronin.
You buy a whole lot of those.
They load my account. They don't load his account.
Tell them to load my account. I'm the one who does the weekly updates for them.
Yeah, I'll redirect where it's going. I mean, I haven't bought an outfit in a little while now.
Cool.
What do you mean? You just bought the ones the other day.
Shh, we're going back eventually. Anyway.
Eventually. Well, of course, you'll go back when they release the MCU outfits this month.
I will.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna check out the MCU outfits. I'm waiting for that.
They're gonna be like $30. Mark my words.
Yeah,
I
but
believe
that's the
that
thing.
100%.
If you're willing to purchase them for $30, then they're worth $30.
Well, yeah, they're going to sell them for $30 if you're willing to purchase. That's the problem right now. We're in a day and age where people generally, especially if you're in a hobby like gaming, have some amount of expendable income. Maybe $20, maybe $100. You have some amount of expendable income. And we're in a day and age where people like Mr. Shank over here literally like live and die by one game. And I'm using you as an example, but you're actually pretty good about it. But you and I both know a lot of people who literally live and die by one game. That is all they're going to play. So while for me, a lot of my expendable income goes into buying a bunch of new games to try, those same people, their expendable income will then go into the transmogs and the mounts, things like that. So we're in a weird state where it's like, I mean, I want to give them crap for transmog and the way they're charging for it, but we both know people are going to buy it in droves because they've been asking for this forever and they're going to buy it. And that's that. Like,
Okay, so what happened with Curse of Osiris, though, was that the store... Do you remember? It was in 2017. Curse of Osiris had just come out. They found out there was like some kind of XP gate. And people just like stopped playing, stopped purchasing stuff. And they eventually had to backtrack on their policies for Eververse. And their policies for like how they were implementing cosmetics in their game. There is a line, I think, that a company can cross where people will stop playing. Or will stop
but
paying.
Destiny
Not stop playing.
Destiny
stop
repeatedly
paying.
pushes that line until they're like, okay, you're all boycotting. Fine. You know
Why
what I mean?
wouldn't
Like,
they?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they?
but that's not an
got a good
excuse
point,
for
though.
shitty behavior. I agree with you. Why wouldn't they? But that's not an excuse for the shitty behavior.
Oh, it's not
Yeah,
an
it's like-
excuse
No,
at
it's
all.
not an excuse. It's a
but
reason.
It's-
everybody
it's like if
keeps
you-
coming back.
Shank, I'm going to come over your house right now, and I'm just going to start doing my grocery shopping in your fridge until you stop me. Like, and by stop me, I don't mean yell at me. Like, you have to stop me physically. So,
It's like if you if you're like you have a company or something where you hire all of, this is gonna sound real personal, but it's not, where you hire all of your friends, and
we're not friends, Dylan. Why would you think we're friends?
I'm not
hold on.
personally attacking you.
I'm not. This is just a good example. It's the point I'm trying to make is if you take advantage of someone's like goodwill, like if you underpay your friend because they're your friend and you don't want to have like a hard conversation.
Okay. I'd like to think
until-
I pay you guys well.
Yeah, I'm paid very fairly.
This is sounding more and more like a personal attack. Also, after today's podcast, I'm about to get a call. Can I get a raise?
No, I just got one. I'm fine.
Right, now that it's out there, Benny, I really feel undervalued lately.
No, but like it's that happens. It's like until somebody tells you to stop. Like there are people who will just keep taking advantage of the fact that nobody is like making a scene about it. So it's like you leave a cosmetic. That's a good point, Shank. That like supply and demand. If somebody's buying it for a certain value, then that's the value. But also like for another example, an RTX 3080 is not worth $3,000.
Yes,
The
it
only
is.
reason
No, it is because supply is so low.
But the people who are buying those cards for that amount of money are people who are buying them en masse, who are buying them for reasons that they are not made for. And that's like, if we're talking about stuff like this, you could talk about numbers all day and be like, oh, well, it's sold for eBay for this, so it's worth that. But also, that's too simple. Like
It's
I feel
very
like
simple. There's a shortage of chips to make the cards because scalpers are buying them and because people need them to do their Bitcoin farming or their crypto farming.
I think it's Ethereum's the big one right now. I just bought into that.
Right. Like so unfortunately, the gamers who need them to run their games are now having to compete with two other sets of people who now want to purchase it. It makes perfect sense. Supply's way down, demand's way up.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
Like-
it doesn't make sense. I'm saying it's not
It's bullshit.
You're
not good.
You're such a defender. You're defending scalping now,
right,
Shank. Like,
which is why like I don't understand
You know what,
where you're
Shank? I'll
coming
join
from
you
here.
on this. Why do I need to pay $500,000 for a first edition base set holographic Charizard? Because the supply and the demand are low and high.
That's not.
It's the same
They're
thing.
not making that anymore, though. That's different.
They're not making 3080s right now either.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not. Where are they, Dylan?
they're in the same warehouse with the PS5s and the Xbox One S's.
I don't see them on the shelves, Dylan.
Yeah, you don't see them on the shelves, but they're still making them. They're physically not making those Pokemon cards anymore. That's different. There's
So
less.
this week I've been
They don't-
playing a
they
lot of
still
games.
exist. Yeah. You want to talk about Control for
today
like
on-
5 minutes before?
Yeah, we're gonna talk about Control, but also I got to give you my update on the Platinum journey.
Yeah, we don't care.
okay.
Dylan, go ahead.
You should go. Why don't we
talked
go
about
with Dylan
Assassin's
and
Creed
then
for
Benny
like
can go
3 weeks.
last?
Okay, Dylan, go. How is Control? What's the update
It's
on the
great. I'm not gonna spoiler free because I know Shank, you seemed interested in it. I don't know, Huey, if you've played it.
Yeah, I haven't played it yet, but I will eventually.
Cool. So I'll keep this very light, but it's a lot of fun. It delivered on most of the things that like we talked about last week about the the SCP stuff and the sort of atmosphere that would surround.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean,
and
that's why I thought you'd like it.
Yeah, and it's what's up?
Well, question. I think you might have said this last week. I'm not sure. What does SCP actually stand for?
I looked it up and I forgot. I always forget. every time.
Contain, protect, or patrol.
Let me look
Basically,
it up
it's a
real quick.
giant wiki of ghost stories, but people have been putting them into this idea that there's a organization that secures, controls, and contains, secure, contain something. The idea is that there is a secure, contain, protect. There it is.
There we go.
Yeah, but
Thanks,
it's
Car.
but
Thank you,
basically,
Car, find it.
people took a whole bunch of like bizarre ghost stories, put them together in a wiki, and then as far as the wiki's concerned, there is an organization that controls and catalogs these.
I
That's
believe
so.
SCP.
So in the
It's
in
basically
the game,
lore behind a wiki.
Yeah, in the game, it's inspired by that. The SCP Foundation becomes the Federal Bureau of Control, and it's so wonderfully bureaucratic. The whole like atmosphere surrounding these ridiculous objects. Like one of my favorite part about the game. Like I think my main criticisms of it are that the performances are fine, but a lot of the writing is kind of like hokey. Which is weirdly contrasted by like the environmental and the like note memo storytelling that happens throughout, where you pick up these like logs of just like memos or case files from various they're called object of power or altered items, which is this game's version of what SCPs are. And there's just like one of my favorite ones is there's this guy who is complaining that the bathroom on his floor keeps teleporting and somebody needs to figure it out because he's annoyed by it. And it's just like, it's so like this just happens all the time in this.
Back
in
to
this
Harry
bureau.
Potter. Back to Harry Potter. What was that room in Harry Potter? Do you guys remember?
Was there a teleporting bathroom?
There's a teleporting room that Dumbledore used as a bathroom.
Oh, right.
I don't know what that room was called.
Hey, when
That's
you gotta
maybe it
go,
was that.
sometimes you go
Yes,
and you come
room
out.
of requirements. Thank you.
Room of requirements, yeah. But yeah, it's a really fun game. The gameplay is surprisingly like a lot of fun. It's not super deep. They give you like 5 different like ways to do things. But the way that you can kind of string things together, it gives you enough freedom to develop your own play style.
Yeah.
That it becomes a lot of fun, especially like playing on PC. I played with mouse and keyboard, which doing the things that I was doing with mouse and keyboard, I don't think I would be able to do with a controller. So I recommend mouse and key if you're gonna play
I was having
this
fun with the
game.
controller. I played it on a PS5, so.
I think it could work. I think
on
the
Steam?
game would be just as fun, but yeah, it's on Steam. But it's I don't know, any kind of shooter, especially shooters that involve lots of movement. I like to be able to like whip my camera around and stuff, which is just tough to do on a controller. But yeah, I really liked it. This is as spoilery as I'll get. I'm gonna be vague. I didn't like the ending. I thought it was rushed and kind of stupid. But I haven't played through the DLCs yet, so maybe that'll make up for it.
And it doesn't?
Fair enough. But like, I'm honestly like that's
One
I didn't-
DLC is about explaining a little bit more about Control and like the things that they've done,
Yeah.
and you get a little bit more on some of the characters. And the other DLC is setting up the next game in the series, which
Right.
is Alan Wake 2. It's not even
Right.
Control. So
Yeah, which that was a fun surprise. I had no idea that because when it was interesting because it was one of those situations where like you watch or play something from a developer or like a movie studio and you're like, this reminds me of something else, and
Yeah.
then you're like, oh wait, this is the same people. Like I when I first started the game, just for some reason in the back of my head, I was like, this kind of reminds me of Alan Wake, which I've never played. And then, like, 15 hours into the game, I pick up a memo that says, Alan Wake with Bright Falls, Washington, or whatever. I'm like, oh! Same universe.
yeah,
Which is a
This
lot of
was
fun.
not what I was expecting. For some reason, I was expecting something like more app gamey. Not app
No.
gamey. More like Subnautica. What do you
No,
want to call that? Like
that's what I thought.
Milwaukee.
I thought it was more like Resident Evil-esque until I finally sat
It's
down
a-
and played it and was like,
Yeah,
what?
it's a Metroidvania. It's, like,
Yeah.
completely just, like, a really, like, weirdly
This looks
classic for
fantastic.
2019
Yeah, it's
Metroidvania.
so good. It's so
solid.
good. It's become one of my favorite games, basically, at this point.
Yeah.
Very few games have I picked up, and I got all the way to the platinum, did all the DLC, and I wish there was more to do. Normally, when
Yeah.
you've done everything, like platinum, and you've done it, you're like, okay, I had fun, but I'm done. I finished it. You know
Here,
what I mean? Like,
I got you, Shank.
Is it an FPS or?
third person.
It's third person.
Okay, I will play it on
Don't buy it.
PlayStation then. Don't?
Don't buy it.
Okay.
Oh, is Houston
Why?
coming in clutch?
Here you
think
go.
Houston's
You
coming
gotta,
in clutch.
you gotta play it on
Oh, hell
PC,
yeah.
but I'm coming in clutch, Shank.
Okay. Well, yes, I'll
Use a
absolutely play
controller.
it on PC for free.
How did you clutch it? What are you doing?
There you go. Humble bundle, baby. I had a copy.
Oh,
Nice.
nice.
Hell
Sweet.
yeah.
But I have it on PS5, so I don't need that
So
copy.
we know what next week's episode is going to be about.
Shank's follow-up
We're about
on it.
We're going to talk
Yeah.
about Control for the
I'd love
third
to have
week
like
in
a
row.
Control spoiler cast. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So now it's
we could do
Shank and
that.
Huey. You guys play it over the next week. I
I
had to
mean-
play it this week.
We do like first impressions and reviews, so we could have all five of us do it.
Yeah, we
Or
could do a
five.
separate
Jesus.
Control.
5. Where's
can-
the
you
fifth
can- man.
person?
I had a long day at work.
Shank.
Um,
you got
guys
somebody
don't
else
see-
there?
you guys-
Oh, it's Grogu, right?
we have
it's
Dylan
actually
and
6.
Jeff.
Dylan and Jeff.
course.
There you go. I'm not crazy.
So yeah, Control, definitely, I love it. I think it's a great game. I do want more. When you get to the first DLC, you're gonna feel like what I want is, because the only big issue I have with it is Control, and I'll do this in a non-spoiler way for Huey and for Shank. The game has a post-end game, so for
Yes.
that to make sense narratively, you don't get the right resolution so that you still have access to all of Control. Like, that is my biggest problem with it. They're like, because the game opens with an outbreak, and you resolve where it came from, what's going on, all the plot points, but the outbreak itself is not closed, with the answer of, well, we still have to make sure it's contained, so we're gonna have to, like, and that's it. Like, we have to go fight it.
I prefer that to like, because this is something that games used to do a lot, which I always hated, was like you would beat the game. Horizon Zero Dawn did this, which made me angry because like that's my favorite game, but this is like one of the huge knocks on it is you beat the game and then it time travels you back to before you beat the game, and you don't get to see the ramifications of you actually beating the game,
Right.
because the developers just weren't interested in making a post game that lived in the world of, you know, like we're gonna see that in the sequel, but they didn't want to give you any of that beforehand. Which
See, I really like that. I thought that was an excellent way to do DLC, to say, no, this absolutely happened before you went and did the final mission. That way, when the sequel comes out, it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like what you did in Frozen Wilds was just like some weird side quest. Like, it actually was important that you took care of. Crap, who'd we beat in Frozen Wilds? I forget.
I don't remember the name. Bear dinosaur robots. That's all I remember from Frozen Wilds.
It's not the robots though. It was the.
There's some guy.
No, it was the god responsible for actually creating.
Oh yeah, the thing
robots.
on the mountain. Hades? Was that what it was
No,
called?
Hades is the apocalypse, the god of the apocalypse. Its directive is to set everything back down to zero. This was like the god of creation, and basically his job was to create the wildlife, not the wildlife, the robots.
Yes.
But he was making them more and more aggressive. Mm-hmm. Because he wanted the robots to be the primary life form on the planet. He didn't want it to be humans. So I kind of like that. I'm hoping we get to fight more of these like demon AIs, and it's not just Hades.
Yeah.
Throughout the rest of the entire series.
And I think that like they could write in a way like with the post game, because that's something we can talk more about this next week. But like Control does do it in a way where it's closed enough but open enough to where it's like not confusing. Like you can put DLC in there that, because like the second DLC I got access to before I finished the game. I could have gone and do it, but like my gamer sense was like, this feels like DLC, and I looked it up and it was, so I just left that area.
Because of all the amount of extra stuff they were giving you in there.
It was just like, go to the elevator, and then like a cutscene played, and I was like, wait a minute, and then I went down the elevator and it was an entirely new area.
It was the cutscene of like Alan Wake on the typewriter, wasn't it? And
yeah, I was like, hold on.
mentioned Alan Wake.
This is completely out of left field. Well, like they mentioned him in like note memos, but it just felt too big to just be like another thing in the main game.
Right.
But like they fit that in like that's where the Frozen Wilds would be if you went back on a playthrough. But also like they could have written it in a way where like if you played the game and Frozen Wilds came out after you played the game for the first time, it would make sense that Aloy would like go into that area after or during, and it would work both ways. But I don't know. I think like having the game time travel you back kind of undercuts the big moment that you just had of like beating the final boss or whatever. But it is kind of a.
You think it undercuts? Like clearly Hades is a larger enemy than...
before because you keep trying to go to Horizon and he's talking
I'm
about
just saying
Control.
games in general.
I think it's a per game situation, because I've played many other games where it rolls back. Like I just beat Assassin's Creed Revelations for my platinum journey, but when you beat the game, they move the plot forward. Like Desmond's awake, he's getting up, he's ready to go. Ezio's life ended, and then when you go back into the game, they roll you right back before that moment. You can't beat the game again. They're like, you did it, but here's everything you didn't get to do before you did it. You know what I mean?
Right. Witcher also does a good job of doing the big climactic moment and then moving on and telling different stories afterwards. So I mean, I guess it's probably just all an execution, honestly.
I think it's just like to me it's narratively unsatisfying. It's like if you finished watching a movie and then after the credits rolled, it just put you like 30 minutes back into the movie instead of just stopping.
Well, I think it all depends on the
Never
narrative
watch
itself.
Memento.
Yeah, seriously.
Good to know. But it also makes it really feel more like a game. Like Horizon is the first example that comes to mind, just because like that was a story that I was so, and still am so invested in, that I was like, okay, we see her go off and plant that flower for her mom self. What's gonna happen next after the credits roll? And then they roll and she's just like standing there and nothing's happened, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess I gotta wait 4 years for the sequel or whatever.
Just because these podcasts run forever, I will say, and I'll go ahead and spoil the original Red Dead Redemption from forever ago. They did it the best way, where the sun takes over after the end of the game. So you can go do all the extra stuff. The way the game ends in a big heroic, this was like 2009, 2010, but the game ends with the main character being shot dead.
No way.
And then what happens is his son, it goes like,
now.
it goes 10 years in the future and the son takes over. So you're able to roam the world, do all the extra stuff, but it doesn't affect the narrative. So
yeah, I
remember
really liked that.
And then Pokemon Silver, where you beat the game and then you can go to Kanto.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah,
Still
that's
the best
crazy.
one.
We'll have a whole separate podcast about the best endings and the way to handle endgame. But I would like to talk about my platinum journey, Dylan.
All right, it was a good run, guys. I will see you next time.
I don't have much to update
I think
on.
we got to
I'm
wrap
just
up.
kidding.
I don't think there's much more to talk about it this week. I have officially finished Revelations. I'm now entering the iffy phase, like where I have to go do the cleanup stuff. And so there's not much more to talk about the platinum journey, but I do want to state, getting to the end, this was funny because I was hitting up Huey because I was kind of complaining about Revelations. Because it's like it's got like one plot about where you're trying to like help them build up the Assassin's Order in the Byzantine area, and it's got a plot about the girl you're trying to get married to, and then it's got a plot about this like Tomb Raider-esque kind of stuff. And I was telling him, I'm like, the game just feels so pointless and so like I see why I didn't remember Revelations, because the main plot they keep trying to force on me is this whole Constantinople war that Ezio's a part of. But it seems like that's just there because they want me to do the girlfriend thing and the Tomb Raider kind of stuff. And this is just to flesh the game out. And I got towards, like, I was just progressing through the story, and like it had this big twist, and spoilers for a game of 2013. But like the guy that I've been helping with the war turned out to be the leader of the Templars. And I'm like texting Huey like, oh my God, all the plots just came together. and since you were helping him and he knew who you were, it was like, he's the leader of the Templars. By the way, he wants the key to the Tomb Raider stuff. And since he knows you, he kidnapped your girlfriend. And I'm just like, it all came together.
I'm just getting message after message after message as I'm guessing the cutscenes were going.
Because they just
Live
kept
tweeting
dropping
just to
like
Huey.
boom, bomb, boom, bomb, boom, bomb. And I'm just like, this is the best one yet.
It's great. I don't have to play the games. I get the whole story through Benny.
So bliss at the ending of that one, wrapped it all up. Now I just got to go do all the stupid cleanup, which I don't know if I'm going to like or dislike, because all the stupid cleanup is all those. Remember I was telling you about those weird plot things where it's like, now you can build a block and you have to climb on it and go over here and build a block and climb on
Yep.
it. That's what's left.
They added Minecraft to it.
I was about to say Minecraft.
Practically, and it's like 10 of the trophies too, so I'm going to be there for a while. Just build a block, climb on it, build a block, climb on it, build a fort, hide from the zombies. Anyway, thank you for watching the PSG discussion podcast this week. My name is Benny. That is Jeff Kaplan.
I'm rich.
That is Mike Morheim, and that is Bobby Kotick. We don't like him. And we'll see you next week right here. Check back midweek for a potential follow-up discussion on one of our other topics, or potentially our new show on Friday when Dylan and I film that with whoever's available. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. We'll see you guys next time right here at PSG.